I'm willing to put in at this valuation, and then your point is no, my amount is higher. Well, that's kind of missing the very point of the negotiation, right? Because many people don't care about the number, as they care about the reason or the rationale as to why that number is. And I think, so for example, I mean, just a little tip, I'd say, well, I appreciate that, thank you for the offer, but it doesn't recognize all the work that the team has done in getting to the point that we have. And look, we've done this and we've done that, and compared to this other business, we've done more, and therefore, I think, come on, it's worth more, right? So I'm not saying, you're an idiot for putting this low number, right? But I'm saying we've done more, and if you reconsider, if you think about it, and in the process, or saying, okay, look, maybe we can, we would like to have this, but maybe we can compromise on this other thing that they care about. Because there's always, it's not a single dimension negotiation, it's not just about price, there's so many different terms and clauses and other aspects to it. So I think it's always a give and take, and I think it ties back to my, just the cultural thing around being able to deal with conflicts, deal with difficult, hard conversations, but in a fair way.
Yeah.
And I think just the negotiations are all about that, and I think ultimately if both people, because you don't want it to be the start, you don't want to start a relationship on a terrible note. Right? It might be like they don't do it much in India, but it'd be like negotiating a prenup agreement with your wife before you're getting married or something. And then, guess what? You're going to live the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what's in the agreement. I think the success or failure. So you want to set it on the right tone so that it leads to good things. And I think there have been plenty of humorous anecdotes. I think in the Elan situation, there was some serious heavy-duty investors, and I think we had an offer from one other VC firm, and then these guys sort of just locked us up in a room saying you're not leaving until we figure out this conversation. And and we're like, okay, but tell us. And they gave us an offer which was lower, but we're like, look, the other firm is offering us higher, and we think we could be more. It's like, no, you don't. So they would say like, no, you don't understand. Look, we can help a lot more than the other person can. And why don't you do reference checks on us? And I was like, no, I know you guys are big guys. I mean, by reputation, these guys are the gods of the venture industry. And they're like, no, we insist. And then they go on and dial like another 3 or 4 sort of top tier entrepreneurs, right? So we actually talked to Jeff Bezos and like 2-3 other guys. He was actually mid-flight. Now this was pre 9/11, so you could make phone calls onto the plane. And then we're asking silly questions like, okay, this guy is God, but do you think he can be helpful to our company? But it was interesting. I mean, I think it was very helpful because it just did tell us, so this person is great from a marketing standpoint, that person is great from a strategy standpoint, there are pros and cons. I mean, even if somebody is good, I mean, don't just get awed by reputation. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and I think it kind of has to be a fit. And I might even say sometimes you don't want necessarily just the most reputable investor, because ultimately what's going to help you build your company. And if let's say anytime there's a difficult conversation, let's say if you're a first-time entrepreneur and somebody is a very heavy, sort of highly reputed investor, I think guess what will happen the next time there's a debate about company strategy or some direction and so on, right? I think you may not even be able to, you won't have a partner, you may have a boss really, and that's nothing, you don't want that, because in a startup situation, the entrepreneurs are more immersed and they have to be driving the business. Advisors, board members can help and advise, but the entrepreneurs have to drive. So I think lots of different things. You want people, it's also not about money. You want people who will support you when shit happens, okay? And I guarantee you it will. I mean, any startup, there'll be ups and downs, and then the constructive investors would sort of help you think through. They'd say, okay, when we had a similar situation, here's what we did, or that's what we did, or say, okay, just step back and look at the bigger picture, and it's not all bad. Or what's working versus what's not working, right? Somebody who's not constructive might just quickly get into a blame game, or add more anxiety. Okay, you already know it's terrible, it's a bad situation, the last thing you want is somebody saying how bad it is, right? I think you're like, yeah, I get it, I know, I don't decrease my anxiety. Help me solve the problem, right? Help me figure out how to fix it. And so it's when things are nice and fine, everybody's happy and everybody feels good. And this is like one of those hockey team lessons, really, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, if you're winning, everybody's cheering, laughing, nobody cares, everyone feels great. But the problem is when you're like 2 goals down and there's like 5 minutes remaining, and there's a lot of spectators watching, and one guy, 2 of you guys are hurt. That's when, I mean, if it's not a good team or a good situation, then the blame game starts and people blame each other, and then they start playing against the team, right? They're like, no, let him screw up, that's his fault, everybody will know it's his fault. It's like, yeah, but it's your team losing, right? So I think there's a lot of things where even with investors and VCs, it's not just the money they bring, but the experience they bring to the table, and most importantly the attitude they bring to the boardroom, because that can be very critical there.
Because I think you have ton of wisdom there that we could go on and on literally, but in the interest of time, I'll just open up for a couple of questions to people. For SLP people who's got their opportunity to send out questions early on, but yeah, I can see. So just be just in the interest of time and in the interest of crowd, keep the personal question like, I have this situation, how should I deal with that? Instead of that, just make it generic, so that Beerud can add a value and it will be more generalized to audience. So yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about global products, where you can sell your products anywhere in the world. Suppose I have a website here, and so should we go geography by geography, or should we open it up for many geographies at the time of the first phase of the product?
I think honestly, it depends on the product. Okay, if there's anything different about a geography that you have to do, then I think it makes sense to focus your efforts and focus on a geography. I think if it is, I don't know, let's say if it's something like a game, I mean, then actually geography is nothing to do with it, right? It's really, I mean, any of the games that Angry Birds, Candy Crush, I mean, you just put it out there, people discovered, the word of mouth, the viral networks will already take you out there, and there was nothing to do with geography and any of those things. Of course, if it's Flipkart or any a lot of global dependencies.
To be more specific, in a marketplace model.
Yeah, but it's still marketplace for what? I mean, if it's a marketplace for apps or virtual products, it may not be affected by geography or culture. But if it's cultural elements, and if it's the logistics or the back-end stuff, or your buyer and seller communities are unique by geography, then it might make sense. I mean, maybe we can take it offline, but I think it depends on the case.
Yeah, Santosh.
Hi, Beerud. I'm Santosh. The way I take Team Chat to market would be to look for edgy companies like Flipkart with a very large seed size. Is that a similar strategy that your top 10 customers?
Yeah, among other things, absolutely. So we're talking to, actually, let me back up for a second, right? One of the most exciting trends, right, if any of you are working on enterprise products, one of the most exciting and interesting trends is the consumerization of the enterprise, okay? Which means whatever's happening on the consumer side, enterprises are starting to behave like consumers, okay? So in the old days, SAP, Oracle, large, complicated, ugly products backed by heavy marketing and a large sales team that go in, they go into the CIO, CEO, map the whole organization, 9-month sales cycle, negotiate, heavy negotiation, close the deal, then followed by a 6-month deployment cycle, and then maybe if people still like the product at that point, there's enough people using that thing, okay? The whole thing is being turned on its head. It kind of started with the iPhone, really, where Steve Jobs said, I don't care about the enterprise market, like BlackBerry did, right? And we're just going to build a beautiful phone. And guess what? All the enterprise employees also said, well, why can't I, if my consumer experience is this good, why can't my enterprise experience be this good? And then ultimately, the CIO and CTO had to give in, and the BYOD theme came about, right? And so the platform shifted. So then once you had Facebook, people said, why can't I do the same thing? So Yammer, Chatter, there's a bunch of products, enterprise social sort of became the things, right? So this boundary between our consumer experience and enterprise experience is blurring. People expect the same kind of things. So even when you look at WhatsApp, I think we see an opportunity to be the enterprise WhatsApp. And for products like this, then again the adoption happen. It's actually the whole cycle in reverse. So it's a freemium product. People, and this happened with Yammer as well as Zendesk and so on. It's a freemium product, so people just download it. They start playing with it. They test it. Then they invite their friends and colleagues because it's a social product. You have to do that. Okay. Once you have like a few dozen or hundreds of people using it, then you sort of have a conversation with the CTO, CR, or somebody saying, okay, do you want to get the premium version because that'll help you get more security and upside features? And it's a very short conversation because they have no leverage because their employees are already using and they're not going to go away from it. So the whole thing happened in reverse, right? First the adoption happened, there was deployment, then the deployment, then the negotiation, a very short one. And guess what? No salesperson ever went there. A lot of it could be finished on the phone as well. So I think that's, anyway, coming back specifically to Team Chat, our goal is to make it very viral, very sort of consumerized go-to-market approach with a consumerized product. So it's in the app stores, it's on the website, it's all self-serve, nobody needs to talk to us. Now, yeah, we will talk to a few influential companies, create some success stories and so on, but the idea is to sell it globally, right? It's not about India. So yeah, Flipkart is fine, but there's 100 Flipkarts worldwide. So the only way we can reach all of them quickly is just make it a consumerized, self-serve, viral, PR-driven approach with very light touch. Yes.
Hi, my name is Amit, and good morning. And it's a privilege to have you here. And
Thank
it was
you.
one of the fantastic sessions I've heard so far.
Sure. Thank you.
I just had a question that IITs, IIMs are usually the breeding grounds for entrepreneurs. And in the last decade, we have seen a spirit of entrepreneurship really catch up in India. But then I was talking to one of the alumni, which I can talk to you later about, and he said very interesting things. Despite the fire in the belly, we're still behind the Silicon Valley in terms of the business plan preparation and the maturity shown by VCs, still a decade behind. So what can be done to sort of fast track this process? Any changes in approach?
I think the simplest thing is just interactions like this. Okay, what's great about the Valley, right, is that I can have 5 conversations a day and they're all with really high quality entrepreneurs. When I say high quality, it's not, okay, let me make a clear distinction. It's not like they're more intelligent, it's not like they've cut out different DNA or went to different schools or any of that. I mean, you could take the same IIT and the same person in the Valley and same in India, and it just the experiences are different. So what happened? I mean, somebody who's built a company, gone through a lot of situations. Each one tells everybody's sharing their experiences, and I think in the Valley you just have a much bigger pool of experiences to share from. So I think in that sense, what SLP is doing is a great concept, sharing experiences. And then as you have more entrepreneurs, hopefully more Flipkarts and more of Quickers and more other kind of companies emerging and growing. And it's interesting, right? Even at like Webaroo, what we've seen is people who leave the company are inspired, excited about it, and then go start something else because in the process they've learned something. And ultimately, some of these learnings, I mean, it's unfortunately it's not theoretical, it's experiential, right? You can read all the books on swimming, but it won't help you when you just have to jump into the water. It's not a theoretical thing. So I think entrepreneurship is also to that extent experiential, and if you can get a wider set of experiences and higher quality set of experiences, that's what drives. I think in the absence of being in the Valley, the good thing though is the connectivity is great. So between reading TechCrunch and there's a ton of stuff on YouTube, there's a ton of books coming out as well. I mean, I think it just really understanding and getting to the why behind some of these things, and not just the glamorized sort of reporter stories, which are not interesting, but the stories of failures or what happens with difficult situations and how do you deal with it and what did they think about it, and then you don't take it literally and copycat it, but you sort of understand the theme behind the underlying theme and say, okay, how does it work in my context or in this context here? So I think it's a process. I mean, you can't. The way to fast track it is just more sharing, more interactions. Bring in more speakers. I think you'll get. Today is just my perspective, but you'll get a ton of different perspectives and experiences that helps.
Excellent. I know we will definitely have some offline conversations also. Again, I need to respect the time of all the attendees and of course